If you value serious, well-researched wartime history and practical survival knowledge that still matters today, subscribe to the channel right now and, leave a comment telling us which part of World War II history fascinates you most. This channel exists for people who want depth, accuracy, and lessons worth preserving. So make sure you're part of it as we get started. During World War II, communication was not just about passing information. It was about survival, deception, and honestly staying one step ahead of enemy intelligence services that were constantly listening, watching, and decoding. Radios could be intercepted, codes could be broken, messengers could be captured. Yet entire armies and resistance networks kept operating under the noses of the most sophisticated spy agencies of the 20th century. This episode dives straight into the overlooked brilliance of low-tech and hybrid communication methods that quietly defied enemy spies, and more importantly, what they can still teach modern survivalists and historians about secure communication when technology fails or, betrays you. By the early years of World War II, every major power understood that intelligence wins wars. The Germans built vast listening networks, the British ran Bletchley Park around the clock, and the Allies intercepted millions of enemy transmissions. This forced commanders and resistance leaders to accept an uncomfortable truth. Every message sent was a potential liability. As a result, communication systems were redesigned not for convenience, but for plausible deniability, speed, and survivability. Messages had to look harmless, sound ordinary, or disappear entirely once delivered. This mindset is foundational for anyone interested in survival communications today, because it shows that true security often comes from simplicity layered with human ingenuity. One of the most effective communication hacks of the war was the deliberate use of natural, culturally embedded language that outsiders could not decode. The most famous example is the Navajo code talkers in the Pacific Theater. Unlike traditional encryption, this system relied on a living language unknown to the enemy, combined with improvised terminology that did not exist in Navajo before the war. A battleship became a whale, a fighter plane, a hummingbird, and coordinated attacks were described through metaphors that only trained speakers understood. What made this so powerful was speed. Messages did not need mechanical encryption or decryption, which saved critical minutes during combat. For modern application, this teaches an important lesson. In a survival or resistance scenario, a shared linguistic framework known only to your group can outperform any digital system. Families, teams, or communities can develop layered vocabularies where everyday words carry specific operational meanings, allowing communication in public without raising suspicion. Across occupied Europe, resistance groups faced relentless surveillance. Radios were dangerous, written messages could be discovered, and couriers risked execution. Their solution was steganography, the art of hiding messages inside harmless content. Invisible ink made from lemon juice or milk allowed messages to be written between the lines of personal letters. Microdots reduced entire pages of intelligence into tiny specks hidden under postage stamps or punctuation marks. The brilliance here was not the chemistry, but the psychology. German censors expected codes and strange symbols. They were less suspicious of love letters, grocery lists, or children's drawings. For modern survivalists, the practical takeaway is clear. Communication does not always need to be encrypted if it is concealed within normal behavior. Training yourself to think in terms of concealment rather than secrecy can dramatically reduce risk in hostile environments. Another underappreciated wartime hack was, well, the use of schedules and routines as communication tools. The BBC famously broadcast coded messages to resistance cells before D-Day, embedding instructions inside seemingly meaningless phrases delivered at specific times. A sentence that sounded absurd to the general public carried life or death meaning to those waiting for it. The real genius was that the message existed only in context. Without knowing who it was for and when it mattered, interception was, frankly, useless. This concept is highly relevant today. In a grid-down or surveillance-heavy scenario, prearranged signals tied to timing, location, or routine behavior can replace explicit messaging. A light left on at a certain hour, a repeated phrase during a radio broadcast, or a missed action can all function as communication without transmitting data directly. Not all communication travelled through words. Physical signals and objects often carried information more securely than paper. Laundry, hung in specific patterns, signalled aircraft landing zones. Chalk marks on walls guided resistance couriers. Even cigarette placements or newspaper folds were used to pass information silently. These methods worked because they blended into daily life. An enemy soldier could see them and still miss their meaning. For practical application, this really reinforces the value of environmental signalling. In survival planning, teams should consider how objects, positioning or even absence can convey information without leaving traceable messages. Wartime communicators, well, they assumed failure as a certainty. Radios would be destroyed, couriers would disappear, and codes would eventually be compromised. The solution was redundancy. The same message might be sent through multiple unrelated channels, ensuring that no single failure could collapse the network. This principle is, well, absolutely critical for modern preparedness. Relying on just one communication method is a vulnerability, plain and simple. World War II teaches us that resilient systems are layered, adaptable, and designed with loss in mind. Planning alternate routes, backup signals, and fallback procedures is not paranoia. It's, in fact, historical best practice. What makes these communication hacks truly timeless is that they just don't depend on electricity, satellites, or any sort of advanced infrastructure. They rely on human creativity, shared understanding, and, of course, disciplined execution. In this era of digital surveillance and fragile technology, the lessons of World War II are honestly more relevant than ever. Secure communication isn't about having the newest tools, but about understanding how information flows, how enemies think, and how humans notice patterns. If you're serious about history, survival, or really both, these methods deserve your study, adaptation, and, well, respect. They represent some of the quietest victories of World War II. Victories that saved lives without firing a single shot. If you found this breakdown valuable, do subscribe to the channel for more in-depth wartime analysis and survival-focused history. Share this video with others who care about, serious historical knowledge. And leave a comment with the communication method you found most surprising. Your engagement truly helps keep this kind of content alive and evolving.